Hmm. Hello, YouTube. Hang on a sec. I've got all kinds of things. There we go. All right. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, Michael William Denney. And I am here to give my eyes. I just got back from surfing. My eyes are all red. And I am going to finish reading the book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. And in this portion of the book, we focus on what is the missing aspect to, missing aspect to pretty much everything in modern spirituality, which is taking action. Which is why I have this warrior here looking so gnarly, right? That's from some video game, I guess. And does he kind of look like me? No, not really. So taking action is the biggest thing missing in general. And in the first two parts of the book that we read, if you haven't, go back and read it. It's extremely important. We talk about, first off, getting your assumptions right about your relationship to the universe. You have to have a correct assumption about that. The assumption is, the base assumption is that the universe is you, and that the universe, the matrix, God, use whatever word you want, wants you to be seriously, deliriously happy. The other part of it is that in order for you to be the best person you can be, to give the most to everything and everybody, then you also need to be deliriously happy. You can't live for other people. That's the old Christian mindset, which is used by people who want to control you and manipulate you. And they do that by telling you your job is to serve. That a truly spiritual person has no pride and no ego and has no ambition. And that is a new concept. Human beings, up until the time of the big religions, which what I would even put Buddhism in there, because there's some things about Buddhism, at least some of the interpretations of Buddhism, where you're nothing, you give yourself away, and you are here to serve, and a truly spiritual person has no possessions and has no money and does not want anything for themselves, and that is true spirituality. And so people walk around showing everybody how spiritual they are by how they don't want anything and they have no desires. That is garbage, unless that truly makes you happy. Now, there's a lot of really codependent people out there, a lot of doormats, a lot of people who don't want to piss anybody off, and they present themselves that way, but they're miserable. I've shared what I have gleaned. I could be wrong about this, and I only know what I have gleaned from reading about her, but Mother Teresa, she was miserable. She did what she did because she couldn't understand why God would allow such misery on the planet, and she went through tremendous bouts of depression and a lack of faith. And so this was, who knows what good she did. I've heard both positive and negative things about her, but yeah, man, there's just nothing spiritual about that. And the ancient understanding was that to be a spiritual person, you went out and got what you wanted out of life. You take that to an extreme, and they were warriors and conquerors, and we could debate about, how constructive that was. But you were a spiritual person if you took pride in yourself and you went out and got what you wanted. That life was an adventure. And so these were valuable traits. The path of the warrior. And I can tell you from personal experience, not only in my life, but in everybody that I have worked with, known, communicated with, is that this path of fulfillment, this path of true spiritual awakening, is a path for a warrior. And the people who are the most damaged, the people who have had, and I would put myself in that category, the people who have been the most damaged, who have gone through the worst childhoods, who have been most traumatized, who have been shamed, who have been treated like garbage, who have not been encouraged, who have not been empowered to love themselves, who are filled with shame about life in general. When I teach this to them, one of the biggest problems is consistency. Because, if your parents have no issues and they truly love you, then what they're going to do is they're going to reflect back to you without any agenda who you are. So a real mom and a dad doesn't say, you're going to grow up to be this and you're going to do that and you need to be like this and you need to be part of the culture and you need to be part of the religion or family business or whatever. A true mom and dad says, let's see what he or she wants to do. Let's encourage them to be whatever they are. Oh, great, a boy who plays with dolls, let's see where that goes. Let him be what he is. A girl who likes to play football and lift weights, let's see where that goes. Somebody wants to be an artist, wants to be a writer, wants to be a construction worker, let's see who they are. Let them shine. And then you reflect back to them. Wow, you're really good at that. Wow, you're really good at that. You're really smart at this. And then when they go through challenges as they go through school, then the parents say, well, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be frightened. It's okay to have your feelings hurt. But you just know this is who you are. You're an amazing person, and don't let anybody bring you down. What ends up happening is that child then grows up to be able to parent themselves through life. And so the parents let them go, let them fly out of the nest. Let them be themselves. And as they go through life and they hit challenges and they fail, they pick themselves up and they go, you know what? I know who I am. I know what I want. And I can have anything I want. I make fun of Arnold and I do my Arnold impression and I make fun of him because he's very funny. He sounds so ridiculous. But, listen to him talk. Listen to him talk about how he got to be where he is. He represents that. He just didn't care. He knew what he wanted and he didn't care what anybody else thought. That, I don't know what his parents were like, but they had to have done something right. Because, he walked away being able to parent himself through all of his challenges, through all of his problems. So when you've got children who don't have that, who have been shamed, who have been beaten down, whose identity has been destroyed, what happens on this path, when they start following my instructions, they start to see results. Things start to change for them. And they have feelings about it, and they have fear, and they have anxiety, and they have joy and all that. But then what ends up happening, I've seen, is that there gets to be this crescendo where they really have to learn how to be consistent. And sometimes, this is a big one. People in their life, friends, family, spouses, at some point for some of these people, if they don't come to realize that the people that they're surrounding themselves with are not going to help them, then they end up falling back. Because you have two choices. This is how I see it. This is my experience with myself. This is what I've seen. You have two choices. When you discover what your deepest desire is, which is a whole thing in itself, which we talk about in the first two parts of the book, when you discover what it is you truly want, and you go after it, that's the first thing. Second thing is, then you have to be forced into making decisions. The universe does this. The universe will force you into saying, hey, here's door number 1 and here's door number 2. behind door number one is your true essence, your true power. And only you can go through that door. Nobody can go through that door with you. Only you can go in that door. Here's this other door. The other door is other people's approval, other people's love, and acceptance. Your parents' love, God's love, church's love, country's love, the group, whatever. That's door number two. You got to pick one. And when it comes down to it, and people start making their way towards that choice, sometimes they just can't make that choice and they choose door number two. Now, people want to believe that there are three doors. People want to believe that there's door number one, which is hardcore, going after what you want, willing to die, willing to eat peanut butter and beans and crackers, and going broke and doing whatever the hell it takes. And then they understand there's door number two, which is doing what everybody tells you to do and making your parents happy and making society happy, and life is hard and you're a victim. They know that that's door number two is always there, but they want there to be a third door. They want there to be a door where I can go and not go all the way into door number one, but still kind of approximate door number one and do some of that and still, not leave my dysfunctional partner or not completely go against what, my unconscious resistance is about wanting my parents' approval. I just want something I can tolerate. I just want the money. Can I just do like some sort of half-assed crappy job that'll give me the money and then do what I want? A lot of people also get caught up in this. I hear this all the time. I want to make enough money, a lot of money. Why? Well, then I will be able to support the household. And then my husband, who, can't stop smoking weed and is living in the garage, doing whatever, I can take care of him and then he won't bother me anymore. And I'm like, that's a door number two. So that's what I call living in compromise land. You can't compromise on your soul. You have to be a warrior. I wish there was something I could say. For some people it's easier because they go into life this way. Their parents train them to love themselves and to respect themselves, and they go at it and they don't care what happens. They love themselves and nobody can take that away. And so they have that. And for some of us, we have to learn that path of the warrior. We got to fight like hell. And it's a real struggle. It's a life and death struggle. And I will tell you this, people do die of this. It's called cancer, fibromyalgia, all those diseases you can't put your finger on that the doctor says, we think it might be related to stress, but we don't really know what causes it. Here's some pain pills. That's how you die from disobeying your soul. And it's okay. You can do it however you want. Nobody's taking score. You're the only one taking score. When you're done with this life, you'll go back to your your original infinite essence and you'll go, yeah, I did it again. I let myself get wrapped up in other people, and it was really, really challenging for me. But I know that as a soul that I really want that power, and so I'm going to create another life, and I'm going to create some obstacles that'll seem really challenging. And if I get it and I hear the message, I'll be able to overcome that and really find my power. So look at it this way. Here's a way to look at it. I can't say if this is true or not, but this is kind of how the picture comes in my mind. So people ask me, well, if I'm infinite and I'm all powerful, then why do I have to come and be a human being and make all these mistakes and go through? Well, because human life and the fun and the challenge of overcoming these things, it concentrates the power of the soul. So it's like the stars. Some stars are brighter than others. They're all stars. They're all infinite, crazy, these really amazing things that we can't even understand. But some are brighter than others. Some are more intense. So your soul wants to like be really concentrated and full of power. It does that by bringing itself here and putting itself under the rigors of three-dimensional reality. Here's another way to look at it. Diamonds, right? What creates a diamond? Pressure. The more pressure, that creates a diamond. So your soul likes that. It wants to have that purity, that power, that essence. And so when we're down here and we don't remember who we are, and we know that this whole thing is rigged for us to succeed, and we don't remember that, and we go through the power and we work at it, our soul becomes like this concentrated diamond, really bright. So the thing that makes all of that happen is action. So once again, the law of attraction states, if you sit on your ass and have good, happy thoughts, then good, happy things will be magnetically drawn to you. And I'm telling you, that is your abusive parents. Turn that frown upside down. You better not cry. I'll give you something to cry about. You better be happy. You're going to eat it all and you're going to like it. You don't see that though, do you? So the love and light, everything is love and light. They don't realize how damaged and shameful and codependent they are. Because what ends up happening is because let's be honest, nobody feels happy all of the time. We don't. We're human. And so when you're not feeling happy, you feel shame. Again, you feel shameful because you're not like that guy up there at the Zohar conference where, the master of the celestial plane of Zohar says whatever she says about, just sit on the edge of your bed and feel happy and it all comes to you. And you can't do that anymore, but you want to be just like her, and you want to be like that other guy who got up and gave his testimony and said, yes, I started the secret and I just focus on positivity all the time, and now I have the love of my life and I have all the money. Is that right? Am I doing that right? I have everything I've ever wanted. And you want to be just like that person. So with all the shame that runs in you, you go, yeah, I'm happy too. How are things going? Great. Things are going great. Yeah, the birds are laughing. You hear them? They're laughing at that. Can you hear that? The craziest birds here I've ever heard in my life. So, point is that the universe doesn't respond to that. That is guilt. Feeling happy all the time will bring happy things is shameful, meaning it creates shame in you. Because when you're not happy all the time, you feel like you're not spiritual enough. You're too negative, and so negative things are going to come at you. And again, that's your parents saying, you better wipe that frown off your face, mister. I'll give you something to cry about. That's what that is. It's the same thing. If you think negative, negative things will happen. If you think positive, positive things will happen. Well, I tell you what, if you put a smile on your face, maybe I'll give you a cookie. What? You better not. You wipe those tears. That's your abusive parent talking to you. The universe says, hey, I got all this stuff here that you've piled up before you came down. You got all of this money, all of this health, all of these resources. I got it all piled here for you. It's got your name on it. And you told me that whenever you went towards what you wanted, that I was supposed to give you. There's the money for that. There's the health for that. I'm supposed to give that to you. But I'm supposed to wait until you're ready. And I know you're ready because then you start doing it. And talking about it is one thing. When you start doing it, that's how I know you're ready. So I'm waiting. You're not doing anything. You're talking about it. You're sitting on the edge of your bed. Okay, so you want that and that. I got it. I'm ready. You got to go get it. You got to be willing to die to go get what you want. That's the warrior aspect. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start reading. This is the Hopefully we'll get through all of it. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. And this is page 38 in my PDF version, which may be different than yours. And the title of the chapter is called Taking Action on the Secret Commandment. All right, here we go. Okay, so now you most likely have an idea of what your deepest desire is. Hopefully you have made a commitment to fulfilling that desire, but taking action on it may seem daunting. It may seem impossible. It may be the most frightening thing you've ever gone through. Once again, I want to emphasize that even if you don't think you have the resources to take action on your desires, that is exactly what you have to do in order to reap the benefits of this secret commandment. The universe is made up of energy. Money is an arbitrary human invention. Energy is potential, not literal. For example, there is enough potential energy in the nucleus of an atom to destroy the world. But in order to activate the energy, we have to unlock its potential. You are surrounded by unlimited amounts of potential energy and resources. We just have to activate that potential. Action activates potential. This is why the universe doesn't know for money. It only knows about energy and resources. Until you take action to fulfill your desire, the universe does not see the need to release the potential resources to fulfill your desire. Thinking about living your dream and taking action to make your dream come true are two different things. So waiting around for the money to appear is a waste of time. Take action towards your dream, and the resources you need, which may not be money, will appear. Actually, it is your own unconscious mind that releases energy to create your dream. But your unconscious needs to know you are serious about your desires. The only way to notify your unconscious to manifest your desires is when you take action. When you take action that you cannot take back is seen by your unconscious mind as a command to create your dream. Let me repeat that. That detail is very important. When you take action that you cannot take back, that is seen by your unconscious mind as a command to create your dream. Imagine your boss wants you to take a business trip. The trip will be paid for by your employer, but first, you need to get the itinerary to your boss before he can sign off on the trip expenses. Imagine that he says, once you get to the airport and buy your ticket, text me the airline and the flight number and I'll deposit the funds into your bank account. If you do not buy the ticket, your boss can't reimburse you. That is similar to how the universe works when it comes to fulfilling your desires. Once you take direct and real action to fulfill your desire, the universe takes notice and releases any energy and resources needed to support and manifest your desires. The more bold the action, the more likely you are to get a strong reaction from the universe to support your dream. In the previous example, I suggested to Fred that he sell his house for a loss and move to the mountains. That would have been a very clear sign to the universe that Fred was serious about living his dream, because once he had sold his house, he would not be able to turn back. So you need to take actions that irreversibly commit you to your dreams. How many times have you heard stories of people taking risks to live their dream? Someone moves to New York to become a dancer or a stage actor. They arrive with no money, not knowing how they will survive, yet somehow circumstances magically line up to help them survive and reach their goals. That was true for Arnold. He showed up and he had this stupid accent and he couldn't talk English at all, and he had the big space in his teeth and he looked like some kind of zombie Frankenstein person, and he said, I'm going to be a movie star, and they said, no, you are not, go lift that over there, and he did it anyway. So once again, back to the text. So once again, it is important that we realize that we don't have to win the lottery before we can take action to live our dreams. Taking risks is the proof that we trust the universe to support us. Realizing that the universe is not only supportive of our dreams, it needs our dreams like we need food, water, and air. Living our dreams is what gives life to the universe. We feel shameful about our dreams. Your dreams are the stuff that the universe lives off of. So when you deny your dreams, you're denying energy to the universe that it needs to give to everybody to fulfill their evolution. You owe it to everybody to live your dreams. So stop feeling so sorry for yourself. Stop being such a victim. Just go do it. Yeah, it's tough. Big deal. Just go do it. All right, next chapter. Creating your perfect life. Okay, so you have a good foundation of how the secret commandment works. Now we go into action to create our perfect life. Step 1. Ask yourself, if you lived in a magical fantasy world where you can be and do anything, what would your life look like? Where would you live? What would you be doing to make yourself happy? What would your personal relationships look like? Are you single, married, do you have children, etc.? Step 2. Examine your chosen new life. Is this really what you want, or are you compromising? Remember that in order to reap the most out of the secret commandment, you need to create your deepest desires to the full. So ask yourself if you are going after what you really, really want, or are you skimping in order to be more practical or sensible. This is your one and only life in this body. You have a responsibility to yourself to have as much fun as is humanly possible. If you hold back on making yourself happy, you run the risk of holding a secret grudge against yourself for not going after your greatest joy in life. And as I've said before, that unconscious, self-directed negativity, that resentment that you have at yourself for not doing what you want, does have the power to kill you. I've seen it. Step 3. Begin taking action to fulfill your desire no matter how impossible it may seem. Let me say that again. Begin taking action to fulfill your desire no matter how impossible it may seem. Let's say you work at Walmart as a greeter, but you imagine yourself living on a yacht in the Mediterranean. You can take action to fulfill this dream by looking at different yachts. Don't look at the price. Look at what will meet your needs. Begin researching where in the Mediterranean you would live. Enjoy imagining what that would feel like. Another example. Imagine someone who lives in the Midwestern United States but fantasizes about living in a tropical paradise like Florida or Hawaii or Australia. In that case, begin researching different places you might want to live. If you can afford it, take a couple of trips to these destinations to decide where exactly you might move to. In fact, I would say even if you can't afford it, go take trips to see these places. These are just a couple of examples. I was being too soft on you in those examples. These are just a couple of examples. The point here is that taking action can be as simple as fantasizing, but can include taking action to make it happen. No, I'm being way too soft on you. Point here is that taking action starts with fantasizing about what you want and must include taking action to make that happen. Have to have those two. Again, sitting on the edge of your bed, thinking about it only works if you can sit on the edge of your bed and think happy thoughts about what you want. If then you go, okay, that's what I'm going to do, and then get up off your ass and do it, then the law of attraction works. But you got to have the action part, otherwise it's meaningless. Step 4. Step 4 is for the rest of your life. Continue to take action every day. When you experience fear or procrastination, ask yourself what you are afraid of. Write down your fears and feelings around the issue, and then I would have continued, and then take action anyway, regardless of what you think and feel. Bear in mind that, since I've written this book, I've obviously worked with a lot of people. And what I keep seeing is that people fight with their feelings, and they want me to help get rid of their feelings for them. And I get this question all the time. Just watch. I get questions. How do I overcome my feelings of, and I say, who said you had to overcome your feelings? I never said you had to overcome your feelings. You don't have to feel good. I mean, when people go to war, do you think they sit there and I'm not going to go to war until I feel like I'm going to win? No, hell no, they're afraid. They piss their pants, they crap themselves, and they go out and they fight anyway. It's that same kind of thing. In terms of your unconscious mind, there's no difference. You're fighting a war. So you're not supposed to feel okay about it. Just go do it. That's bravery. Bravery isn't nothing bothers me. Bravery is I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's bravery. You can't do that if you don't trust either. You have to trust that the universe will take care of you. And strange as it sounds, this is fun for your soul, because your soul, remember, if you're sitting there playing a video game, you're playing a video game and you're getting shot and the monsters are coming up and oh my God, I only got one guy left and your guy dies and you get really upset and then you go, that was fun, let's do it again. Your soul is the same way. You think, you can't live this life if you don't take it seriously, if you don't believe it, if you don't believe all of the fear and the potential problems and all of that, if you don't believe it, then you don't take it seriously and your soul doesn't have fun. So this is another reason why keeping a spiritual path is important, because then you can be connected to your soul and your soul will go, no, I'm having a good time, it's fun, I just keep doing it. But if you disconnect yourself from your soul, then you get all wrapped up in your fear and you forget. So the spiritual part is absolutely necessary. This is why therapy, and listen, I have a psychologist I work with, and I've been working with him for 20 plus years. I've been in 12-step groups for almost 40 years. So I'm a big believer in good psychology. But psychology by itself won't accomplish anything, because psychology will not give you that feeling of connection to the universe. That can only be done through a spiritual path. Spiritual discipline gives you that connection, faith, whatever you want to call it. You got those two things, the self-analysis, and then you have the power of the universe, success. That will give you success and growth and evolution. All right, moving on. Keep yourself open to unorthodox possibilities. The universe is economical in how it provides resources, so don't limit the universe in how it will manifest your resources. This is where people can get stuck. People know that they need money to accomplish an objective, and they automatically assume there is only one way to accomplish that. For example, I have to win the lottery. The universe also will respect your boundaries. If you are very attached to the idea that the only way to get what you want is by winning the lottery, the universe will respect that. That doesn't mean you will win the lottery. It means that the universe will not provide alternative means because you have already decided that other possibilities are off the table. To illustrate this, imagine that you have a very savvy accountant working for you, and he has come up with a brilliant way to get grants from the government, and it could make you a millionaire. He comes to you with his genius harebrained scheme, and you say, no, that won't work. I have to win the lottery. The accountant shrugs his shoulders and walks away. He's ready to pull the trigger on a radically different approach that no one has ever thought of, but he can't implement it because you won't trust him to do something unorthodox. In my experience, the universe is always looking for the quickest way to achieve what you need. I'll share another example from my life. At one point, I had decided that I needed $10,000 to pay off debts. I also wanted to get a new car with better gas mileage to save money for my surf excursions. At that time, I was living in the mountains and I was driving. I was driving an hour and a half from the mountains to the beach to go surfing every few days. I also wanted to get a new car with better gas mileage to save money for my surf excursions. I meditated and sent out the request, more like a demand, for the universe to bring me $10,000. In fact, I remember walking in the woods and saying it out loud. I demand the universe give me $10,000. Here's what happened. I got into a car accident and totaled my Jeep. I had bought this Jeep used in Idaho on a trade-in for no money. It was just a straight across trade because my pickup was worth more in Idaho than the Jeep was that I wanted, even though the Jeep was in better condition and was newer with fewer miles than my pickup truck, which they call utes out here. I don't know why they just don't have pickup trucks. They have these trucks with nothing on the back, and then they put these like little metal things on the back, and they call them utes, I guess utility. Again, I don't know why they just don't have pickups. What was I saying? So when I totaled my Jeep, so when I moved to California, the Jeep I had was worth more because Californians like Jeeps more than they do pickups. So the opposite was true. In Idaho, the pickup was worth more than the Jeep, and in California, the Jeep was worth more than the pickup. Got that? So when I moved to California, the Jeep I had was worth more because Californians like Jeeps more than they do pickups. So when I totaled my Jeep, the insurance company gave me more money for my totaled Jeep than it was worth when I bought it in Idaho. The insurance company gave me over $10,000 for my totaled Jeep. I kept the 10 grand and used it to pay off some debts and used what was left over to put a down payment on a new car. So in essence, I got the $10,000 I needed plus a free upgrade to a new car, all of this from a car accident. This is how the universe works sometimes. It looks for the quickest and easiest way to get you what you need, but it may come in ways you don't expect. Once again, the bottom line is to determine what you want and then take action so that the universe can release the resources necessary to grant your desires. Next chapter, unconscious resistance. Now, I must be honest with you. If you are making a big change in your life in order to fulfill your deepest desires, there is a very strong likelihood that you will experience strong resistance from your unconscious fears. Again, I'm being way too soft. Let me read it again the right way. Now, I must be honest with you. If you are making a big change in your life in order to fulfill your deepest desires, there is an absolute certainty that you will experience strong resistance from your unconscious fears. These unconscious fears will do everything in their power to prevent you from breaking free from your old patterns. You must become vigilant in seeking to become aware of the subtle power of your unconscious mind and its sneaky tactics to sabotage your success. Oftentimes, after someone has taken risks to fulfill their desires, unconscious resistance will kick in and can destroy one's progress toward living their desires. In tragic cases, unconscious resistance can force a person to discard their progress and return to their previous state of unhappiness. I was talking about this earlier. Before I give examples of how resistance can manifest, let me explain what unconscious resistance is and why it can be so difficult to identify and overcome. The three minds. You have three separate minds at play here. You have your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and your unconscious mind. Your conscious mind is what you are consciously aware of. It is your waking mind. The conscious mind is our interface with moment-to-moment waking reality. Your subconscious mind, among other things, is the repository for valuable information that you may need at a moment's notice. For example, your PIN numbers, address, your spouse's birthday, hopefully, are stored in your subconscious mind at the ready in case your conscious mind needs access to this information. I remember I forgot, when I was married, I forgot our anniversary. I totally forgot it. That's called unconscious resistance right there. Your unconscious mind is the vast storehouse. So I just talked about the subconscious, which has all the stuff you need to remember, but you're not thinking about from moment to moment. Your unconscious mind is the vast storehouse of deep memories, fears, psychological patterns that determine your choices and actions. The conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg floating above the water's surface. The subconscious mind is right at the water level line, bobbing above and below the surface as needed. The unconscious mind is the remaining 85% of you that remains hidden from view, but which determines all of your actions and reactions. So it is virtually inescapable that when you take drastic action to shift your life away from your old patterns and move toward fulfilling your deepest desires, your unconscious mind will resist your efforts. The unconscious mind operates on the unconscious level, which means that your conscious mind is completely unaware of its machinations. Your unconscious mind is not going to knock on your door and openly reveal to you its plans for sabotaging your progress. It's not going to say, hey, listen, you're taking action that's going to change your patterns. You've mistakenly made some beliefs about life that you think protect you, and my job is to protect that. So I'm going to start doing all kinds of things to talk you out of it, but that's me trying to talk you out of it. No, your unconscious doesn't work like that. It's very sneaky. Your unconscious mind will seek crafty, sneaky, and ingenious ways to divert you and distract you from your path. These distractions will always seem very rational to you at the time. That's really important. There's always going to be a really good reason why you can't take action. and you'll be able to write it out and convince most people, but you'll definitely be able to convince yourself. These distractions will always seem very rational to you at the time, but if you have people around you who tell you the truth, they will see that your fears are irrational. That's why it's good to have a mentor. That's why it's good to have people that you trust who aren't there to co-sign you or who are trying to keep you down. That's why, listen, people say, when I say, listen, you need a mentor, they'll go, well, I have my wife or my husband. I'm like, well, nah, they have an agenda. They have to sleep with you. They have to, be able to live with you. They're not going to push your buttons and make you uncomfortable. They have an agenda. They want you to love them. You have to find somebody who's willing to tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. That's why mentors are good. That's, by the way, why you pay people. Wanting spiritual teachers and mentors to work with you for free, you're asking them to not have an agenda, and that's impossible. They're going to have some kind of an agenda with you, and so you can't trust what they're saying. Somebody who doesn't have an agenda, who's just there because you have paid them for their time, their only agenda is to help you. They've already gotten what they wanted, what they need from you. Now they're just here to help you, ideally. These distractions will always seem very rational to you at the time, but if you have people around you who tell the truth, they will see that your fears are irrational. So in order to achieve major life changes, we need to become aware of our unconscious fears and strategies to sabotage our success. There is a difference between the shamanic approach of dealing with unconscious resistance and the pop psychological approach. Pop psychology wants to intellectually examine the unconscious mind with the theory that if we uncover the unconscious mind, we will know our unconscious patterns and be able to avoid unconscious resistance in the future. The shamanic approach suggests taking direct action towards your desires first, then the unconscious mind will kick in and seek to sabotage our success, and the underlying fears and patterns will then become apparent. Once you know the strategy of your unconscious mind, you can thwart the unconscious mind's plan to sabotage you. But the unconscious mind is also very flexible. When one strategy doesn't work, it will often switch gears and use another approach you don't see coming. This is why it's so important to have a teacher or counselor who can objectively point out your irrational unconscious fears to you. This is probably the most important service I offer my students and clients. I help them uncover the ingenious schemes of their unconscious mind. The most powerful way to overcome unconscious resistance and change the underlying sabotaging patterns is to take contrary action. Contrary action means that when your fears and self-sabotaging drama kicks in, you take contrary action. You do something completely contrary to what you want to do. When your fears tell you to stop, you do the opposite, regardless of how you feel. I'll give you an example of a powerful method to overcome unconscious resistance. Think of someone you know or have known who is the most unhappy, unsuccessful person you know. Family members or childhood friends are good for this because you have known and watched them for a long time. More than likely, you will be able to see how this person sabotages their own happiness. They may complain about being a victim of circumstances, but you will most likely be able to see that their misery is entirely of their own making. They, however, will vehemently defend their resistance. You don't understand. I can't leave my abusive boyfriend. He's paying my medical bills. You mean the medical bills you got because he's beating the crap out of you? That's pretty good. Even though it is their abusive boyfriend who is sending them to the hospital most of the time. They have all kinds of irrational excuses for staying miserable. I'm laughing and making fun of it, but that is a very real thing. I remember once when I was a kid, I had to be 13 or 14. I was a little kid. I mean, I was, at that age, I was little. And my friends and I were walking down the highway near my house, and this car pulls over, and it didn't stop, and this woman gets pushed out of the car, and she's like rolling. She gets up, and she's like shaking, and she's bruised, and we go over to her, and she's like in shock, and we realized that it was this boyfriend that was in the car that had thrown her out of the car. He turns around and he comes back. And I was furious. And I was like looking at him and breathing. You know, I was a little kid. I couldn't do anything. But had I been a little bigger, I would have done what any red-blooded guy would have done. And he got in my face and towered over me and threatened me, and I knew I couldn't do anything about it, but I wanted to kick the crap. And he's like, you have no idea what she does. She makes me do it. And while he's sitting there threatening us, luckily for us, a bunch of other people start pulling over, and they see what's going on. And then some other guys start getting in the guy's face, and some adults, like some people, say to her, come on with us. You don't have to go with him. We'll take her wherever you need to go. We'll take you to the cops. Don't get back in the car with him. You know, and there's like a whole slew of people, men and women, you know, that are trying to tell her, don't get back in the car with this guy. And this was before cell phones, because we couldn't call the police, right? So there was no phones around. She got back in the fucking car, to everybody's amazement. Like, what? She got back in the car with him. I never forgot that. It's easy for us to see when others are doing this, but it's very difficult to see when we are doing this in our own lives. That's because the unconscious mind wants to stay hidden. If you knew what the unconscious mind was doing, you wouldn't listen to it. So it stays hidden, and it concocts ingenious methods to fool us into staying stuck. This is the power of unconscious resistance. We are not consciously aware of how we are seeking to stay miserable. So, back to our method of overcoming our unconscious fears. Bring to mind this sad, unsuccessful person that you know. They are your best teacher when it comes to overcoming your unconscious fears. Whenever you are confused, in doubt, or whenever you find yourself operating from fear, anger, or any other fear-based emotion, ask yourself, what would so-and-so do? Then immediately do the exact opposite. Virtually every time, not virtually, every time you will see that so-and-so always takes fearful actions that prevent them from making positive changes in their life. I have a so-and-so in my life. I've talked about him before. He's my brother. I'll call him Carl. This is a man I have known my whole life. He is easily the most unhappy, miserable, and unsuccessful person I've ever known. This was a while ago. I hadn't had any contact with them. I think I had broken off contact with them at that point, but he was still alive. Well, I think he's still alive now. And he was living with my mom. My mom was still alive, so they were still around. But my brother now, last I heard, was sick, injured, and homeless. Living on the street, panhandling for money. Living in his truck. The last bit of my mom's estate, came through, and he got something like 30 grand. Knowing him, if he hadn't done anything to change, how's that going to last? 1-2 years maximum, if he's lucky. Living in hotels, if he's lucky. And then, unless something has changed, he's going to end up right where he was before. He had every opportunity. It's not like he was incapable. There were programs where he lived. He could have gotten money from the government, just whatever the hell you call that, disability, because he has now this nervous condition that has caused him real physical problems. He could be living off of that. The government would give him enough money to have a place to live and enough money to eat, and probably free health care. Could have had anything he wanted. And there were opportunities for him to get off the street where he was. He actually went into one of those programs, and he didn't follow the rules, and they kicked him out. He refused. He refused to take the very real thing. So whatever excuses he made about why he had to be on the street, those of us who know what, family members know that he could have gotten off. Now, I haven't talked to him. I haven't heard from him in years, since I wrote this book. I've only heard from, other family members, but now nobody knows where he is. He could be dead for all I know. I honestly don't know. So he is that person that I use. I grew up with him. I know exactly how he thinks. I can hear his voice in my head. If I posit a question, I know exactly what he would say. And I use him as my greatest teacher. When I'm in the biggest fear, I ask him. Here I call him Carl. Carl, what do you think I should do? And then I listen to that voice. I know what he would say. I listen very intently, and then I do the exact opposite, and it works every time. So, Carl, this is a man I've known my whole life. You know, I say this, I don't take any pride. It actually makes me really sad to say it. I'm not saying it to, I know he has no access to internet, and he doesn't, he doesn't follow my channel to the best of my knowledge. He could care less. I'm not doing this to get back at him. I'm doing it to share with you. I'm sharing from my real life. And I'm sharing, something that's really painful for me to talk about and to go there. But I believe that this path of the warrior is a serious one. And, whatever some of you may think, when I'm harsh with you, again, this is just my Aruda. Those of you who've talked to me on the phone know that I'm a very different person. But when I'm on the channel here, I'm my Aruda. And my Aruda is to be harsh. That's the kindest thing I can do for you, is to not co-sign your victim mentality. And some of you may not realize how much I care and how much I want you to be successful, how much I want you not to be like him, how I want to help you save yourself from that. So I don't share this lightly. It is the most powerful example I know. And part of what I do is I try and reveal my human self, my vulnerabilities as a human as much as possible. Why? Because then you can relate. They say, if you see Buddha on the road, kill him. This is why I have a hard time with some teachers. There's one real famous teacher out there who, I've scrutinized him and I can't really find a whole lot wrong with him. But what I don't like about him is that, he really allows himself to be presented and treated as this ascended master. He won't say that, but he lets everybody else around him say it. And maybe that's what he needs in order to accomplish his work. But I don't like it because people tend to worship him. And that's, how can you learn from that? I learn from people who trip and stub their toe and make mistakes and then tell me how they overcome their mistakes. I want to be able to see how a human being does it. I don't give a crap about how a demigod does it. Good for you. This is why Jesus is worthless. Jesus is perfect. Okay, so how does that help me? Well, he does it for you. Well, fine. Who gives a crap? I learn from real human beings. So I do everything in my power to make sure you know that I'm a real human being. It's okay with me if you hate me, you dislike me, you disrespect me. Just do what I'm suggesting. That's all I care about. I honestly am more interested in you being happy than you liking me. I don't need to do this. I don't have a personal need to be a famous teacher. I could care less. I do it for two reasons. I do it because I have to work to make a living. And if I'm going to work to make a living, I'm going to do something that means something to me. And the second one is that it's my job. It's what the universe has made very clear. This is my job. So I'm going to do it. All right, back to the text. I have a so-and-so in my life. I'll call him Carl. This is a man I've known my whole life. He's easily the most unhappy, miserable, and unsuccessful person I have ever known. He wasn't always this way. As a kid, he was very popular. He was the fearless, tough guy on the block. He really was. Which is why it's such a huge change to see him as this broken, sick, guy walking around with a cane. If he's still alive, he might not even be alive. To see him that way compared to the way he was when I was a kid, huge difference. I mean, he was a little shorter than I am, but he was, thick, man. He had just, he was a bull. He wasn't always this way. As a kid, he was very popular. He was the fearless, tough guy on the block that all the other kids wanted to emulate. He was fearless, strong, and full of self-confidence, to say the least. He was kind of a bully at times. I'm being kind to him. He was a fucking asshole. He was a total bully. He was kind of a bully at times, but so were a lot of alpha male types. From the look of it, as a kid, if he applied himself in life, he was assured to be a success of whatever he put his mind to. That's true. He's the most, I've never seen anybody with as much ability to accomplish things than him. It's just that he had his focus on being a victim. And he's really good at it. And he's so strong, he's still alive. He's done everything in his power to destroy himself, and he's still alive. That's how powerful he is. If he could put 10% of that towards anything he wanted, he'd be the most successful person in the world. That's why it's so tragic. Fast forward to today. Carl is broke, homeless, sick, and miserable. He has no family, friends, job, or future. It is amazing that he is still alive. He somehow manages to stay alive despite how miserable his life is. He currently suffers from a debilitating progressive illness that causes him severe pain. His doctors have told him that his illness is a result of emotional stress, yet he adamantly refuses to seek professional counseling to relieve his stress. In fact, the last time I saw him, he threatened to shoot me. And it was because he was complaining about not being able to ride motorcycles, which he used to race motorcycles, motocross specifically. And he said the only time that he felt relief was when he rode bikes. And I said, so do it. The reason why you're in so much pain is because you're not doing what you want to do. That pissed him off so much that he threatened to shoot me. That was the last time I had anything to do with him. Carl, because of the nature of his illness, could easily qualify for public assistance, but he refuses to even apply. I believe he does this because on an unconscious level, he prefers to be a victim. He likes to complain. So the more tragic his life is, the easier it is for him to complain about his life. Now, that might be kind of a superficial way to look at it. It makes it sound like he enjoys it. I don't think he enjoys it. I think what's really going on is that I had the same parents he did, so I think he's still waiting for mom and dad to finally turn around and love him. And my parents didn't want us to be successful because it made them feel insecure. So they liked to keep us, unsuccessful, independent. He never broke away from that. His need for mommy and daddy's love, he never got past that. In fact, he never got past the age of 4. That's when I was born. And he never got past that. And he lost, mom, didn't focus on him anymore. And he got pushed to the side. He was a middle child. He never got over it. Emotionally, if he's still alive and if he hasn't changed, and if you talk to him, you'd think you were talking to a 4-year-old, emotionally. He likes to complain. So the more tragic his life is, the easier it is for him to complain about his life. If you were to meet him, you might feel pity for him as he would tell you a horrible tale of how life had victimized him. He would tell you that I ruined his life. I'm 5 years younger than him. I'm his little brother. And he will tell you how I destroyed his life. It's really quite interesting to listen to. He's very good at spinning his tale of woe, but I have known him his whole life, and I have watched him build brick by brick his personal prison of misery. Now, his life is his business, but he is my greatest teacher in how to live a happy, successful life. If Carl's life is a result of his efforts to be miserable, the most logical strategy to a happy life is to do the opposite of what Carl would do. I know him so well that I know what he would do and say in just about any situation. So, in order to get the most out of my life, I simply apply his method of living in complete reverse. Carl has unwittingly taught me one of the greatest skills in achieving a happy life. He teaches me how to take contrary action. Whenever I am confronted with a frightening situation in my life, whenever I want to hide or feel like a victim, I ask myself, what would Carl do right now? And then I do the exact opposite. It works every time. Whenever I want to hide or feel victimized, I imagine Carl, what he would say and what he would do. I listen to his advice, and regardless of how scary it sounds, I do the exact opposite. Sometimes this is frightening. Sometimes taking Carl's way out of life sounds really good. Sometimes playing the victim feels safe. It sure sounds convincing. But since I am more afraid of being miserable and sick like Carl, I do the exact opposite regardless of how scary or impractical it may seem to me at the time. This approach, as I said, always works. My life always gets better when I do the opposite of Carl. I am so grateful for everything he teaches me. Now, sometimes it is not easy at all to take contrary action. Sometimes doing things like Carl does sounds very attractive, but there is one thing I have noticed about Carl. He always finds reasons not to take action. And whenever I am afraid and I want to not take action too, I see the Carl in myself. Carl and I are exactly alike. We look alike, we sound alike. You know, if you were to hear his mannerisms, you would totally see. I mean, we're almost twins. And that's why I sometimes hate watching myself, because I sound and look so much like him. I can't stand it. Carl and I are exactly alike. We have the same feelings, temperament, inclinations, desires, and fears. We were very alike growing up. We even looked alike. The only major difference between Carl and me is that Carl never takes action contrary to his fears. I have managed to take a few actions contrary to my fears, so I have achieved a greater measure of happiness and success. Carl thinks that is because I got all the breaks in life, whereas he was denied everything. But I was there. I saw how Carl was given a lot of opportunities and he sabotaged all of them. But to be honest, from my perspective, Carl has more potential than I do. He is stronger than I am in many ways. He has an extremely strong will. He just uses his willpower to sabotage his life. I'm not as strong as Carl, so even though I too have a self-sabotaging streak, I'm just not tough enough to be as miserable as Carl is. I couldn't survive living his life. Having known Carl all my life and having seen firsthand all of Carl's strengths, gifts, and abilities, I can see how if he had simply taken just a few actions toward his desires, even when he was afraid, he would be very successful in life. The truth is that Carl has worked extremely hard at being a failure. If he had put 10% of the effort he puts into being miserable into taking actions, he would be extremely successful. So one of the first things you can do to achieve success is to bring to mind your version of Carl and imagine what he or she would do, and then just do the opposite. So unlike pop psychology, I am not suggesting you try to completely understand your unconscious mind before taking action. That is simply not possible. Taking action will threaten your unconscious patterns and bring them out of hiding. They will reveal themselves when threatened, and if you continue to take direct action toward your desires, regardless of your fears, you will eventually become aware of how your unconscious fears sabotaged you. But in the moment, most likely, you will feel afraid and confused. But when you learn how to take action, regardless of how scared, depressed, sick, poor, alone, and etc. you may feel, you will eventually learn how to identify and overcome your unconscious resistance when it raises its head. And this is probably the most important. It is never too late to take action and turn things around. It may feel impossible, especially if, like Carl, you have invested a lot of time and energy into sabotaging yourself. But the great thing about taking contrary action or doing the opposite of Carl is you don't have to think about it or feel ready. Just do the opposite of Carl, take the action regardless of how you feel, and watch your life change. So stop thinking about it and just do it. Thanks, Carl, for being my greatest teacher. I owe all my success to you. All right, I'm just see how much longer. Okay, we don't have much longer here, so I'll power through the rest of the book here. Next chapter. The purpose of unconscious resistance. So, forgive me if I have given the impression that the unconscious mind is the devil. It isn't. The unconscious mind is trying very hard to help us. But without the guidance of the superconscious mind, the unconscious mind can come to some irrational conclusions about what is best for us. The reason the reason why the unconscious mind is sometimes so persistent about sabotaging our success is because it believes that it is protecting us from danger. As children, when we encounter frightening situations, our unconscious minds create psychological patterns in an attempt to prevent us from being harmed in the future. But oftentimes, the unconscious mind makes incorrect assumptions about what is harmful to us. Let me give you an example in my own life. For much of my adult life, I have struggled with being a writer and a teacher. I have struggled with my own success and prosperity. On a conscious level, I was working extremely hard to be successful, but no matter how hard I tried, it seemed that I just couldn't make anything happen. It has taken years of self-examination, I would say decades. It has taken decades of self-examination and work in this area to understand the false assumptions that my unconscious mind made when I was a kid. My false unconscious assumption was this: my parents will love me only if I am unsuccessful. I was totally unaware of this psychological pattern in my unconscious mind, and even though I would try extremely hard to become successful, my unconscious mind would sabotage my success at every turn. My unconscious mind was sabotaging my success because it believed that success would be harmful to me. My unconscious mind was mistakenly trying to protect me from being rejected. The way this happened was that my father, rest his soul, was an extremely successful physicist. That's why I know the world is not flat. My dad actually designed satellites that they might even still be out there. They're in the Smithsonian. So, he'd come home with pictures of stuff and all kinds of really cool things in the 60s and 70s that were pretty interesting. So, sorry, flat earth guys, you actually have to go get an education. Go take some science classes. And by the way, science classes is not sitting there reading books being told what to do. It actually involves experiments. So when they talk about certain things and certain laws, you actually have to go and do experiments to prove it or disprove it. And they force you to do it because science is a result of doing experiments to prove things. So all of those of you who don't want, some guy who watched my channel, I don't know if he still does, but he started talking about how he doesn't trust Jew science. What the hell? What is that? Fucking child. Get an education. It actually can teach you something. Like why the sky is blue. Really cool. One of these days I'll tell you why the sky really is blue. And what the spiritual significance of that is. So I'll talk to you from a scientific perspective and a spiritual significance. It's really quite wonderful. The way this happened was that my father, rest his soul, was an extremely successful physicist. But he had grown up in a less than supportive home as a kid. So he was very insecure about himself. Whenever I would achieve something in school, he would always find ways to dismiss my accomplishments. He would even criticize me and tell me how I was nowhere near as successful as he was at my age. But when I was a mediocre student, I got a lot more positive attention from my father. Even though my dad would talk about how important it was for me to be successful in school, the reality was that when I was successful, my dad would withhold love and approval. And if I was a success, he would criticize me. So my unconscious mind learned the real emotional communication, which was, if you want my love and approval, you need to be a mediocre person and avoid success. Actually, it was more complicated than that. I was supposed to be really smart. I was supposed to have a lot of potential, a lot of promise, but I couldn't really actually accomplish anything. Now, of course, he wouldn't have said that, but his emotional reactions spoke volumes, and that was more important to me. So every time in adulthood when I was approaching success in a field, my unconscious mind would kick in and do an end run around my conscious mind and find ways to sabotage my success. By the way, this still happens. That hasn't changed. When I hit a plateau and I push myself farther and I push my business farther, there are times that I don't want to get out of bed. The depression and the fear and the anxiety is sometimes more than I can handle. But because I know all of this stuff and I know that it's just a feeling and that I know that I deserve to have success and happiness, and I also know that it's my job. My job for you guys is to be as successful as I can be. Again, none of this stuff has come easily for me. That's why I have no sympathy for victims. None. Because if I can do it, you can do it. The main way my unconscious mind would sabotage my success was to prevent me from taking action toward my dreams. So now, even when I'm scared to take action, I do it anyway, regardless of whatever feelings I may have to the contrary. So the bottom line here is that your unconscious mind is trying to protect you. The only way, in my experience, to overcome the unconscious mind is by taking action and then talking with someone about the fears and feelings that come up. That's why I'm here. So while I'm on the subject, let's look at some of the most common symptoms of unconscious resistance. Lethargy, laziness, sadness, depression, anger, resentment, guilt, victim mentality, obsessions, drama, chaos, loneliness, addictions, isolation, oversleeping, insomnia, fear, panic, being too busy. That's another one. So you've got, on one hand, you've got lethargy, somebody that can't get off the couch, can't get out of bed. And then you have the people that can't stop doing anything. They're just constantly doing everything all the time. It's the same thing. It's two sides of the same coin. There was one, I was on a dating site here, and somebody I was talking to, which I never met, and in my profile it says something to the extent of no whatever. Somebody who's not addicted to being busy all the time. No overworkers. I need people who can relax and enjoy and all that. So I put that in my profile. So this woman, bodybuilder. She's a middle-aged woman, but she was a bodybuilder. She looked like she was in really good shape. And obviously, you got to have a really strong work ethic to do that. But she kept on saying over and over again, wanting to meet me. And I'm not addicted to overworking. It's just that, and she kept on saying that. And I wouldn't, it wasn't because I had said anything. It's just that one little line in my profile. And then when it came time to meet, she decided that I wasn't interested. She made the decision that I wasn't interested. And then she said something again about not being an overworker or a workaholic or something like that. It's like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So it was really clear what the projection was. She knew that she wasn't a workaholic, and that I was probably going to have issues with her not being able to just stop. This is one thing, but like men and women, this is one thing I don't understand. Men can do nothing. We are so good at doing nothing. Women, generally speaking, my God, they have everything planned out. This day they have to wash clothes. This day they have to do this. This day they have to go shopping. This day they have to do that. And then they have to go to work. And then they have the dogs. And then they have the kids. And I'm like, how the hell do you guys do that? They do that because that's their way. Not all women, of course, but that's their way of avoiding being busy all the time. Men's ways of avoiding can be not doing anything. But it's two sides of the same coin. I somehow get all the stuff done that I need. I go to the store, I wash my clothes, I get my work done. I still get everything done, and yet I still have all this time. Women don't have a job. They don't have any time to do anything because they're always busy doing this and that. Again, not all women, sorry. So lethargy, these are the symptoms of unconscious resistance. Lethargy, laziness, sadness, depression, anger, resentment, guilt, victim mentality, obsessions, drama, chaos, loneliness, addictions, isolation, oversleeping, insomnia, fear, panic, being too busy, conspiracy thinking, poverty, headaches. And here's one of the biggest modern symptoms of unconscious resistance: physical illness. Here are a few common resistance-related illnesses: migraines, tendinitis, indigestion, backaches, joint pain, arthritis, fibromyalgia, carpal tunnel syndrome, immune disorders, high blood pressure, cancer. The list goes on. For those suffering from chronic illnesses, I recommend my book. That book is still out there. I'm just going to be straight with you. I thought I got rid of that book. This one I'm about to mention, because I wrote it when my fiance was still alive, and it looked like she was gonna beat cancer, And she was absolutely, totally certain that I was the one that had helped her do that. And she really pushed me, and not pushed me, she really um, encouraged me to write a book on how to heal cancer. So I did. Anyway, I wrote this book when she was still alive, so the recommendation is still there. Obviously, she passed away. I can't take any credit for anything. And I stopped working with cancer patients. Maybe that's a mistake, but you know. Anyway, this is written in the book, so I'm going to read it here. For those suffering from chronic illnesses, I recommend my book, The Shamanic Secret to Healing Cancer. Even if you are not a cancer sufferer, the healing protocol in that book will apply to any resistance illness. Probably some truth to that. But again, you know, painful spot, sore spot for me. So if it were up to me, I'd take that book completely off Amazon. Now, look back at your life and ask yourself if any of these symptoms or illnesses prevented you from taking action toward your deepest desires. If so, I am here to tell you that none of these circumstances, no matter how challenging, has the power to prevent you from taking continuous action toward your desires. And, in my experience, the only way to permanently eradicate these symptoms is by taking continuous actions toward your desires. Take the example of my friend's dad, who cured himself of Parkinson's disease by finally allowing himself to be loved and enjoy his life. Sounds simplistic, but in my experience it is true. Consistently and fearlessly go after your deepest desires, and you can overcome any obstacles. All right, we're almost done. Conclusion. This little book is just the beginning of this exciting journey of creating your perfect life. Let's try and sum up the steps to achieving your perfect life. 1. Remember, being happy is the main reason you were born. Your highest responsibility to the universe is to make yourself happy first. Make yourself happy first. First. You know, when you're in a plane and you've got a kid, and if the plane goes down, what they teach you to do is to put the mask, the oxygen mask on yourself first, then put it on your kid. Same thing here. If you want to be of use to anybody else, you got to make yourself happy first. Number 2, in order for the secret shamanic commandment to work, you must obey your deepest desires without compromise. Exactly, literally, to the letter. Without compromise. That's the warrior part. You got to be willing to die to have exactly what your soul is telling you it wants. Don't ever, no matter how silly, no matter how unreasonable, no matter how wrong, no matter how selfish, if that's what your soul wants, you got to do it. And let me address some of the questions that people come up with. Well, what if somebody's sole desire is to harm others? What if somebody's sole desire is to blank little kids? That's not somebody's sole desire, because that doesn't bring them joy. They may be obsessed with it, they may get off on it, but they're escaping their pain. It's not joy. So please don't ask that stupid fucking question. In order for the secret shamanic commandment to work, you must obey your deepest desires without compromise. That's number 2. Number 3, imagine what you would do if you lived in a perfect fantasy world where you can be and do anything that you want, and then take direct and continuous action to achieve it. Number 4, be prepared for your unconscious mind to try and sabotage your success by diverting you from your goal. 5, remember your version of Carl. Ask yourself what Carl would do, and then do the exact opposite regardless of how you feel. 6, if needed, be sure to have a mentor, not if needed. Again, I'm being way too kind. 6, be sure to have a mentor or counselor on your side to help keep you committed to your dream. Number 7, be available to share this path with anyone who comes along and asks you about your success. So that's true with anything. You know, when we talk about how Christianity, you know, how dangerous it is and how all of that, people ask, what do I do? You know, how do I convince somebody? You don't. It's not your problem. None of your business. However, if they come and they ask for your help, be available to help them. But wait. You got to wait until they want your help. If in doubt, the best thing you can do is to say, I have some thoughts about what might be helpful for you. Would you like to hear it? And then see what their response is. but you have to ask permission. If you really want to tell them, you have to ask permission. If you just dump it on them, that's called unsolicited advice, and it is always abusive, even if you have the answer that they need. It means you see somebody in the bushes and they're shooting up, and it's gonna kill them. Not your problem. Don't go run over there and tell them to avoid drugs unless they ask. Now, I'm a teacher, so I come on and I teach all kinds of things. So that's different. I'm not imposing my will on you. You can change the channel anytime you want. Nobody forced you to come on here and listen to me. So that's a little bit different. All right. Continue. The last part of it. The most important thing to remember is that creating your perfect life is already naturally programmed into your soul. If you can listen to your soul, you will always be guided to your highest destiny. For those with persistent challenges in creating your perfect life, I strongly suggest working with an objective, encouraging professional to help you achieve your desires. For those wishing personalized consultations, please contact me via these links up here. I have one of my email addresses in there, and I don't like people emailing me unless they're asking me about how they can pay me for a service. They're already a paying client or a student. Other than that, talk to me here on this YouTube channel. Leave comments and suggestions, and that's the best way. Because if you want my help for free, that's how to do it. You want you want to ask me a question for free? Ask it on here. The reason why is everybody else can benefit. Some people say, yeah, but it's really complicated and I want to send you an email. Well, look, don't waste my time. I got stuff to do. You want to pay me for my time? Great. But if what you want is free advice and you got this whole long story, then I'm going to share it with everybody. That's why I put it on here. I'll do it for free if it's a community thing. If you can share your question and we can share our discussion so that other people can benefit, I'll do it for free then. Other than that, please don't bother me with questions about what to do. Secure my time, become an apprentice, whatever else. So, lockdown.thunderwizard.com, $3,214 off. I'm giving you everything that I have control over, that I can give in terms of teachings and certifications and courses and streaming videos. I'm giving it all away for free. The only stuff I can't give away for free is books and subscription services. But everything else I'm giving away for free. You are going to be paying for 5 personal services with me. That's the only thing you'll pay for, because I have to pay the bills. But outside of that, I'm going to give you $3,214 worth of stuff, including 3 different ways to start your own business. Ways that I make money. So I teach you all that and give you all that here in lockdown.thunderwizard.com. Thunderwizard.com, that is the subscription site. That gives you access. There are people on Patreon that just give subscriptions, subscribe to my, and support the channel. I give you real stuff. I provide real teaching. I give you hundreds and hundreds of hours of master shamanism courses, of manifestation courses. So when you subscribe at the various levels, you're getting something for that. But it also supports me and allows me to do this. Courses.thunderwizard.com, all of my books and DVDs, everything. But again, Lockdown has pretty much all of those things in there. Listen, I am totally interested in teaching for free for the rest of my life. And the way that can happen is if this channel goes through the roof. If I'm able to make a living just off of YouTube advertisements, right now I make about $200 a month. Can't live off of that. So I have to provide services and I have to sell services, and I'm happy to do it. And I'll continue to do that for as long as there's demand. But if we can get this channel where it's paying my bills, everything will be for free. I'll teach it all on the free channel to everybody. So those of you who want to climb up my ass because I'm charging for my work, well, first off, I have the right to do that, and fuck you if you don't like it. But second, if what you really want is all of that stuff for free, then, in your spare time with all the money that you don't have, that doesn't cost you anything, go and share links with everybody. Put it on your Facebook and your Twitter and your TikTok and your Flammer Scammer and whatever else is out there. Get it out there. And, help me get this channel huge. Also, watch my videos. Watch them all the way through. YouTube likes it. The more time you watch a video, YouTube likes that and will promote that video. If it's a video you really like, watch it. I've got these reruns that I'm putting up, which I'm kind of disappointed at, which is not your fault, but I was really hoping that they would be really fun and people would be able to watch my channel 24/7, but people aren't watching a whole lot of those. If there are videos that you don't like that I'm doing, look at how many views there are. So I got to be realistic. I got to go where the views are, because if I want to make this channel big, it's going to be from watch time and views. So you have something to do with that if you want to be a part of that. Having said that, I'm grateful that you're here. Subscribe, hit the bell button. I will see if there are any questions, and if there are, I'll be happy to answer them. Let's take a look here. All right, so Scott Lewis Smith, is this pre-recorded? No. Nora DeKenna, I just hopped on. Are you answering questions about anything or just your live topic? This is live. You still here? Dingo Lightfoot, if we can't let our unconscious... So if you have a question, it's helpful to write the word question, because otherwise I can miss it if there's a lot of people on and they're just throwing out opinions. That's not the case today, but if you're new to the channel, please write the word question so that I can see it's a question. If we can't let our unconscious be present, then we lose our instincts. I don't trust people who don't trust their instincts. So you're new to my channel, right? Dingo Lightfoot, you're not understanding what I'm saying. If we can't let our unconscious be present, who said that you can't let it be present? I never said that. And who said that your instincts are your unconscious? Just because you feel it's an instinct, you don't know necessarily where that's coming from. So I don't know you, but you really need to understand what it is I'm talking about. You have an understanding, but it's not what I'm teaching. And I don't think you understand what the unconscious is. So I invite you to spend more time on my channel. I've got books to read. You can read books and educate yourself by the books that I give. You can listen to my channel. But put more time into actually understanding what I teach, because it's not your fault, but you're not understanding what I'm saying yet. That's all right. It's complicated stuff. Dingo Lightfoot. So Dingo Lightfoot likes his instincts. What that means is that Dingo likes to operate from his feelings. Now, it's good to know your feelings, but you have to be able to take constructive action. That's consciousness. Just wanting to be stimulated by your impulses and needing to respond to all of your impulses is not necessarily consciousness. So if you are equating your unconscious mind with your impulses, then no, you can't follow all of your impulses unless you're a truly conscious person. A conscious person, let me tell you what a fully enlightened person is. A fully enlightened person is somebody who has conscious awareness of all of their feelings, all of their positive and negative feelings, and takes constructive action regardless of the feelings. Now, obviously, sometimes you feel good and you know that doing what you're feeling like doing is the right thing for everybody. That is taking conscious actions on your good feelings. You have something that is making you frightened, or you have an impulse to act out on somebody and to do something dangerous or harmful. Your impulse is to want to do that, but your consciousness goes, as much as I want to do that, I'm doing that out of my fear or my hurt feelings, and that would be hurtful. The thing that would be helpful in this situation is to tell them, thank you, have a nice day, when what I want to do is call them names and punch them in the face. So Dingo, what you're saying sounds a lot like what you want to do is simply just respond to your impulses. And that is actually narcissistic. It means that you're not aware, and it means that you don't have power. If I'm hearing you correctly, maybe I'm not. But if I'm hearing you correctly, you don't like me talking about overcoming unconscious resistance because you like responding to your impulses, whatever they are. And that again means that you're not in a place to really, in terms of your happiness, it means that you may have an instinct or an impulse to do something that's going to be damaging to you. And you won't know that because you're only wrapped up in whatever you're feeling in the moment. Now, again, I could be wrong. That's what I hear from what you're writing. It sounds good and it sounds spiritual, and I get it. You don't want to be told what to do. You want to have the freedom to follow whatever your feelings and instincts are. So that tells me that you grew up in a house where you were shamed for your instincts, your thoughts, and your feelings. And so now to overcome that, you're going to do whatever the hell you want, whenever the hell you want to do it, regardless of what the consequences are. And you tell yourself that my instincts are part of my human nature, so I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. And then that puts you in a position of justifying what you do and why you do it. Again, that's all I'm hearing from what you're saying here. All right? No, that's it. Those are all things. End Times gives $2. Thank you, sir, or ma'am, whoever you are. Thank you for the $2 there. That's it. No more questions. All right, I've already done all the selling I'm going to do. I'll go ahead and we'll have a guest speaker on here for just a couple of minutes, and then if you have any questions, you can ask, and I'll be happy to answer them. So hang on we'll let this guest speaker come on for just a couple seconds, and then any questions, I'll take them.
Hey there, this is Arnold. I have a very important announcement. I command you to listen to me. This is Arnold Swears He's Bigger, and I'm here to tell you something very important. You must go to thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, subscribe and hit the bell button. I command you to do this. It's the most important thing you're ever going to do in your life. If you don't listen to me now and hear me later and go and subscribe, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to shame you in front of your whole family. I'm going to go to your school and I'm going to chastise you in front of your friends. I'm going to go to your church. I'm going to stand in front of the whole congregation, and I'm going to tell people how stupid you are for not going and subscribing to this channel. I tell you now, it's the most important thing you're ever going to do. You have to go and subscribe right now, otherwise my head is going to explode. Do it now, I command you.
All right, interesting. I was wearing the same shirt as I'm wearing right now, but I wasn't. That wasn't today. That was a while ago. Let's see, where was I? Who did I just have on there? Where did he go? Come on, I have to turn it off. Come on, turn it off. Okay, there it is. All right, so no questions? All righty then. We'll have some more stuff coming up. I'll have some other videos coming up later, maybe today. All right, that's it. Thanks, guys. See you soon.